News Talk 94.5 WPTI, 96.7 FM WTOB, and you're listening to the Wealth Guardians radio show with Doug Ray, helping you to retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm your host, Doug Ray, and with me, of course, is Brice Payne. And this morning, we're going to be talking about our recent move and our new Wealth Guardians radio studio in the first segment. Second segment is the greener grass on the other side. Good morning, Brice.
Good morning, Doug. How are we doing?
I am great, man. I just love this new studio.
We're excited. This is our first recording in the new studio here. Yeah. And, we're going to talk about that here and talk about what we see in the studio and how others can see what we've got in the studio here. Before we get started on all that, it's been Veterans Day.
Yes.
So we want to go ahead and do our Wealth Guardian service salute to every veteran out there. Thank you for your service. Doug, you were a veteran. Garrett served as well. So thank you to the Ray family. Your dad served. And did your grandfather serve as well?
He did not. He was too young for World War I and too old for World War II.
Okay, but three generations of the Rays have served here. Your dad?
Actually, my dad's two brothers, too.
Okay, well, very good. And, of course, my dad as well. My mother served. My uncle served. So I got a lot of people in my family as well. So to all the veterans out there, we wish you a profound Veterans Day. We're thinking of you here at the Wealth Guardians. Thank you for your service. And Doug, I feel kind of like a little bit like we might have served because we went through a big move here over the last couple of weeks, and moving is never easy.
We've been in our new office now, what, 2 weeks?
No, 1 week.
1 week, okay. And we were delayed because the fire marshal flunked us twice. Not anything to do with us.
Not us, right? Not us. The building. Some things need to be fixed with seemingly things that you would never think of, like the fire exit lights weren't synced up. Yeah. So one was flashing at a different time that the other one was flashing when they were in emergency mode. Who knew that was a thing? Apparently fire marshals do. But we got it all straightened out, and we got the new offices set up, and loving the new place.
Oh, yeah. It is 3 times what we had before in size. We have 2 conference rooms, the Washington conference room and the Lincoln conference room. We have an area where we're going to set up for classes. So we're really pretty excited. Everybody has their own private office here. And our construction crew did a fabulous job of coming in here to this old Clemens Library and turning it into the Wealth Guardians financial offices.
Yeah, and we should do a tip of the hat to Kristen and Chad for their endless work in getting us in here. They really made sure that we got in here at the time that we needed to get in here. So Kristen, Chad, thank you for your work in getting us in here. And Doug, I'm most excited, of course, about the new offices, but I'm most excited about this new radio studio here.
Yeah, you primarily with Garrett's help, you guys did a fabulous job of setting this up. I mean, it's darn near professional.
Well, I thank you for that. I like to think that it is the best that we could do with the space that we've been given. But a lot of people don't know this. If you're out there listening to us and you've listened to us week in and week out on the radio, what you might not realize, and the reason you didn't realize is because we haven't promoted it too much, is this radio show is also a video podcast available to you, to everyone out there listening, about a couple of days after you hear it broadcast. And you can go to our YouTube channel, The Wealth Guardians. That's our YouTube channel. And a backlog of all of our video casts, any of the radio shows that you've listened to over the last couple of years are actually available on there. We were never really set up at the old place for a video podcast.
Right. It was just too small.
It was a radio. Yeah. It was a radio show that happened to be video recorded. But now what I wanted to do was take the opportunity, now that we've got this a little bit bigger radio studio here with a fresh coat of paint, I looked through some video podcasting studios and got some ideas on how we could make this really look sharp. So now I'm proud of it. Now I want to go ahead and advertise to everybody out there. Yeah. If listening to Doug and Garrett and myself is not enough for you, and you want to see where we're sitting and how close we are and the notes that we've got in our hands and the things behind us that are near and dear to our hearts, then I invite you to go to our YouTube channel, The Wealth Guardians, and you can watch any of these and see us in action as well. And I want to take a few minutes here, Doug, and do 2 things. I want to talk about the things that are in here in the studio because all of them have a special meaning to us. But let's take a minute and talk about the history of the Wealth Guardians and you being in radio? Because this is not your first rodeo in the radio station.
No, it got started back in 2007 down in Charlotte. Got a gig on WBT, which is the Charlotte metro area's conservative talk radio station, somewhat similar to WPTI here in the Triad. And from that, we got a gig on WSJS here in Winston. And Winston was kind of my natural market because you may not know this. Winston-Salem is my hometown.
Right.
Born here. That was in November of 2007. And then, of course, we went through the Great Recession on WSJS. That was a live show back in those days. 8:30 in the morning, Saturday morning. I would literally get up at 4 a.m. because I live in Charlotte, and do my final prep work, drive up here, do the show. It was an hour live call-in talk show, and, get back home around 4 or 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon.
Live without a net, and now you just walk.
Now I just walk.
20 feet.
It's beautiful.
From your office to the new radio
Actually, it might be 20 yards.
Yeah, okay, a little closer.
It's a big space.
Either way, the Panthers couldn't have gotten there in 4 downs.
Right, exactly. This year for sure. But yeah, I mean, folks, it's an amazing journey we've been on, and it's culminated in really a professional broadcast. And like Brice said, I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and look at us because, it's football season. Brice and I are sitting here in our keep the paycheck football jerseys.
We got Wealth Guardian football jerseys actually that say our number is 59.5 because that's when you can do what's called an in-service rollover if you weren't aware of that. And we've got the Wealth Guardians logo on it, and the name on the back is rollover. So we've got the jerseys on. And Doug, tell us a little bit about some of the things that you brought into the studio that are near and dear to your heart here.
Yeah, let me finish up with the history, though.
Okay.
So after WSJS, they had a media kind of a change, and WPTI came on board as the news talk station here in the Triad. So we migrated over there I guess it's over 10 years ago now. And several years ago, we also picked up the oldies station here in town, WTOB, the Good Guys, which has been a fun thing to do, where we sponsor the East Carolina football broadcast. And so here we are now.
Your alma mater.
My alma mater, yeah, that's right. So here we are now. And Brice, here in the studio, we've got some mementos of things that are near and dear to our heart. I've got a P3 up here. That's actually an EP3. The P3 that I flew model is in I think the Washington conference room. But I'm a big Green Bay fan too, so we got some mementos there.
You've got a Green Bay helmet signed by Brett Favre back there, and you've got a list of all of those world champion, a poster of all the times.
13 world championships, the most of any NFL team ever.
Go ahead. Yeah, we'll go ahead and let Doug do that. Broncos only have a few championships out there, but you've got a Pirates little mini helmet there signed by who was that signed by?
That was Pat Dye.
All right, Pat Dye. And then you've got, is that a Christian McCaffrey? No. Whose Panthers helmet do you have?
That's Luke Kuechly.
Kuechly. Very good. Kuechly's back there. We've got our retirement income certified professional certificates on the wall. We've got our Wealth Guardians flag. And Doug, you've got a sextant up there tell us what the meaning behind that is.
Well, that's a reproduction of a 17th century sextant that they actually used to navigate with. And, Brice was teasing me a couple weeks ago when I got it, and he said, show me how to use it. And I said, do you think I'm that old? So, the sextants we use in the Navy are electronic and much more advanced than that, but it's just kind of cool to have some of these trivia pieces.
Absolutely. And next to your P3 there, I've got a B-52, which is what my father flew and what he served. Lost his life in a B-52 crash, so I've got that there. Got a couple of disc golf championship discs signed by Ken Climo and Barry Schultz here. And then one other thing that I want to bring up, I've got my Peace Corps sign over here because I did serve, but I served in the Peace Corps. We've got our Wealth Guardians flag here. But one thing that I want to point out Well, they got the Avalanche there as well. I got a couple of my alma mater helmets. Doug, we've got your book that you wrote, Mama's Secret Recipe for Retirement Success, that you wrote with
Jack Canfield.
Jack Canfield there. And then you gave me a bottle some years ago. You went down to the Caribbean and you asked me, what can I bring you back? And I said, well, boy, if you're down in the Caribbean, bring me back a bottle of Havana Club rum. And you actually found a bottle, aged 7 years, not just the cheap 4-year, but I haven't even dared to open that yet. So that's what we've got going on here in the studio. But they've got something else coming up on Tuesday, Doug, and that is our Social Security workshop. And that is Tuesday, November 15th at 6:30 p.m. Social Security, understanding your filing options for Social Security is extremely important. It's one of the main sources of income that you have in retirement. There are thousands of ways, Doug, to file for Social Security. And if you think you're just going to file at the moment that you retire, or at the moment that you turn your full retirement age, or at the moment that you turn 62 and you can file, got some news for you. That might not be the way to file that's in your best interest, and you want to really think through and understand your filing options. That is why we do this seminar. If you're in your 30s or 40s, probably too early for you, but if you're approaching retirement or you've just retired, you want to make sure you're filing correctly. And to help you do that, we're doing this seminar on Tuesday, November 15th at 6:30 p.m., and we are bringing in none other than Hamilton Morales. Hamilton Morales is certified with the National Social Security Association, just like you and I are, Doug, but he's the teacher of us who get certified.
National teacher. He goes all over the country.
National teacher, and we've managed to corner him once again this year. This is the Social Security seminar to catch. Please register. You can't just show up. We got to make sure we've got enough space for you, and you can do that by giving us a call at 336-391-3409, or you can also visit us on our website, thewealthguardians.com. We'd love to see you there, and we'd love to talk to you about how to consider filing for Social Security. Now, we got to get to a break here, but before we do, we've got the trivia question. Doug, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Doug, we made it through another election cycle, which means we get a break from all those political ads that paints one's opponent as the evilest thing since the Black Plague. Now, our election day was last Tuesday. In 1845, a federal law was passed to make federal elections on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Here's the question. For what reason, or more specifically, for what group of people was this day chosen?
Interesting.
Right. Stick around for the answer to that trivia question on the other side of this short break. This is Brice Payne. With me is Doug Ray. The show is The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And this is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. And this is 96.7 FM WTOB. News Talk 94.5 WPTI. 96.7 FM WTOB. You're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm Brice Payne along with Doug Ray, and in this second segment this morning, we are talking about, is the greener grass on the other side? Now, we asked you a trivia question. We asked Doug a trivia question in the first half, and before we get to that, I've got a question for you. Are you looking forward to your retirement? Do you want to make sure that you're making the best financial decisions for your retirement? Well, if you answered yes to either of those questions, then I've got good news for you. We here at the Wealth Guardians offer a no-cost, no-obligation, second opinion/review of your current portfolio to see how we can help you retire the job and keep the paycheck. But the ball's in your court. You have to give us a call. We can't call you, and you got to pick up the phone and give us a dial at 336-391-3409. We're in a new studio, we're in a new office, but we have the same old phone number, 336-391-3409, and we have the same website, thewealthguardians.com. We'd like to hear from you and see how Doug and Garrett and myself can help you retire the job and keep the paycheck. Now, let's get to that trivia question. Doug, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Doug, as I said, we made it through another election cycle, and our election day was and is on the first Tuesday after, well, it's on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. So in 1845, a federal law was passed to make it that specific date, the first Monday in on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Here's the question, Doug. For what reason, or more specifically, for what group of people was this day chosen?
I have absolutely no idea. None.
Take a stab at it. Pick a group of people.
A group of people that need the first Tuesday after the first month. I don't know. I have no idea.
All right. Well, in 1845, the law was passed to set a single election day for the entire country. At first, that was only applied to the presidential elections, but it was later extended to congressional elections as well. At that time, going back to 1845, the United States was still largely an agrarian society, for farmers
I get it.
made up a majority of the labor force, and much of the year was taken up by the planting, tending, and harvesting of crops. Early November was a good time to vote because the harvest was over,
Right.
but the weather was still relatively mild. Still, some days of the week were better than others, and so 2 days were definitely out of the question. Most Americans were devout Christians and thus set aside Sunday as a day of rest and worship.
Makes sense.
So Sunday was out. Wednesday in many areas was a market day when farmers sold their crops in town.
Oh.
Okay, so it couldn't be Wednesday. In addition, a travel day was sometimes required. In rural areas, the nearest polling place might have been several miles away, and in an era before automobiles, getting there could take a while. So if people couldn't use Sunday or Wednesday as their travel day, then that meant election day couldn't be on Monday or Thursday either. And so Tuesday was perceived as the best option, though Friday could have worked as well.
That makes perfect sense if you put your mind back into 1845.
1845. I gave you the date. Yeah, you needed to go back to, it's not quite your childhood, but you need to go back a little bit there. But if you got it, congratulations out there to you, because I didn't know that, and I was curious. When I pick out these trivia questions, I think about what's going on in this time of month or whatnot, and that one came up saying, well, why do we have election days on Tuesday? So there's the answer for you. And if you got it, then for you, congratulations. Yeah. All right, Doug, so we're talking about, is the greener grass on the other side? And what we mean by that is sometimes you need to find a new financial advisor. Different things can happen in your life, and you got to find the new financial advisor. Other times you might think you need a new advisor, but really you're just guilty of thinking that the grass is greener on the other side. So I want to discuss some common scenarios and whether they're legitimate reasons for leaving your advisor. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
All right. So you tell us, Doug, whether this is a legitimate reason for leaving your advisor. My advisor made a mistake. He even admitted it himself, and it cost me some money.
No, I don't think that's a legitimate reason to leave. I mean, the guy or the gal was honest about it. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. We're not perfect. Perfect died on the cross 2,000 years ago. So, that's no reason at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it cost you money. Okay. You're in a risk game. You got to expect some losses from time to time, right?
That's true.
If you want absolute safety, go to the bank.
Now, if your advisor actually made an error in doing something, we can determine what we mean by mistake here, but if you made an error, we carry error and omissions assurance.
Right.
And if we truly made a mistake that cost you money, that's why we have insurance, is to back that up and you get your money back in most cases. Now, sometimes it has to go to arbitration. But if you felt that your advisor was truly negligent in doing something, and is this a repeated pattern? Have you looked up his
very good
his Better Business reviews or his
broker check?
His broker check, and there's a history of this. We know some advisors in the area who have a little bit more scars on their reputation than others. You and I like to think that we're pretty clean here with our reputation. I invite you to go check out our reviews. But it just depends on the severity of that mistake, and was it truly negligence, or was it just, hey, I got you in the wrong stock and that stock didn't do well? I don't know that that's necessarily a mistake.
And if it was a trading error, sometimes you can go back and get the broker, the house to make good on that trade.
Absolutely. Okay, very good. Let's go to the second one. I went to a dinner seminar with a financial advisor and found him to be very entertaining and engaging, much more so than my current advisor.
Well, all of us don't sing and dance. I mean, I think what's more important is to find an advisor that is compatible with what your goals and needs are. Do they specialize in what you need, such as retirement planning? Do they do a thorough job? Are they well trained in that area? Do they have credentials backing that up?
Experience
in the business. All that's important. Whether you can sing or dance, is a moot point.
Think about if you're getting on a plane and you notice that the pilot is really engaging and fun and is telling some jokes to the people who are coming on board. The only thing I care about that pilot is he competent to do his job? Is he a good pilot? Doug, you were a pilot. You know what I'm talking about there. If he's got a great personality, that means nothing to me on getting me from point A to point B.
But I will tell you, most of us were engaging and entertaining.
Doesn't mean a thing to me. I'm glad that you were, but that is not that is not what I'm basing the decision on which plane I get on to. So, all right. So that was number 2. Number 3, I like my advisor, but I've recently moved to a different state, and I'm wondering if I should be working with somebody local instead.
You know, we have clients all over the country.
We do.
And you know, you've got Zoom and GoToMeeting now. Occasionally they'll come back here for a personal visit. I think that's a personal preference item. If everything's working well, you've got a good relationship with them, and you're happy, stay with them. Just because you've moved doesn't necessarily mean you have to have that personal, direct, local contact.
Now, if that truly is important to you, okay, but as Doug says, in this world of technology, we have our licenses here in many states. We've got clients all across the U.S. I've got a client in Hawaii. We've got them in Texas. They're all over the
Florida.
place. Yep. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardians, and we're talking about, is the greener grass on the other side? Meaning, when does it become time for you to need to look for a different advisor? Are there legitimate reasons and are there illegitimate reasons? Before we move on to that topic and keep talking about that, Doug, we've got a seminar coming up.
Yes, folks, this may be your last chance this coming Tuesday, the 15th at 6:30 p.m. We have none other than Hamilton Morales, the living, breathing, walking, talking dictionary of Social Security. So he'll come in. He's been a blast. He's been a big hit for the last 3 or 4 years we've had him in. He comes in once a year, and this is your last opportunity. It's Tuesday, 6:30. Get registered now, 336-391-3409.
And you might be asking yourself, well, why are the Wealth Guardians qualified to talk about Social Security? Well, as Doug said, one, we're not the ones talking about Social Security at this upcoming seminar. We're letting Hamilton do all the talking. But Doug, you and I are registered with the National Social Security Association.
Right.
Hamilton taught us, and he teaches all across the nation, as you said. And you can try to stump Hamilton with a question. Even though I'm certified and Doug, you're certified, once in a while there's a nuance to somebody's filing strategy that we need to go to him. We email him, and he comes back. I mean, literally within 5 minutes, he's emailed us back with the answer. So he's very smart. The reason that you want to make sure that you're filing in the right way is Social Security is one of your major forms of income in retirement. You've worked hard and you've contributed to Social Security all your life. I know that you want to get the most dollars that you're entitled to out of Social Security. And if you're thinking of just filing at the very day that you retire, or at the very day you turn your full retirement age, or perhaps as soon as you can at 62, you are very possibly making a mistake that could cost you a lot of money down the road. So you want to make sure that you're filing in the right direction. There is no cost or obligation to attend this seminar with Hamilton and us, but you do have to register. And you can register by giving us a call at 336-391-3409. I'm going to give you that number again. 336-391-3409. If you don't want to pick up the phone, you can reach out to us via our website, thewealthguardians.com, and hit the events tab, and you can register with us that way. You can also see what other upcoming seminars we've got. I think we've got the first half of the 2023 up there yet, Doug?
I believe it is up.
Okay,
Yep.
so you can see what other seminars we've got coming up as well. What did I leave off, Doug?
I think you got it all. But folks, we've had 2 years of nice COLA adjustments to Social Security. You probably really need to sit down and see how that's affected your Social Security benefit.
Indeed. Well, that's all the time we have this week. Thank you for joining us. We hope the rest of your weekend is everything you want it to be. This is Brice Payne. With me is Doug Ray. The show is The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And this is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. And this is 96.7 FM WTOB.